Hi everyone. Today we're going to discuss the materials about text and context. So actually, we cannot separate text within its context because uh, the same text can mean differently in different contexts. So I'm going to make it brief and short, and let's see the text-context connection. So the meaning of text is built by context of situation and context of culture. For example, uh, I'll give you an example of how a text, the same text, can mean differently in different contexts. For example, if you say um, in bahasa, for example, uh, or in English, how old are you? For example, it can mean exactly we ask about how old the person is, or we can mean it as sarcasm to a person, for example, to a child that wants to, for example, play an adult video games, for example, an adult video game, for example, like GTA, for example. We can say to the child, how old are you? In that context, in the first context, we ask uh, the exact uh, what is it age of the person, but in the context of with the child, we can mean that we what is it we do not allow the children to play the video game by asking how old are you. So how old are you, so you want to play the video game? That's different kinds of text, the same text which has the different meaning in different contexts. That's how uh, that's why text must attach to its context to have a meaning. So there are two kinds of context. The first one, context of situation, and the next one, context of culture. So let's see context of situation. Context of situation has to do with um, the register variable. It is um, affected by field, tenor, and mode. Field is about what are you talking about, tenor with whom you are using the language, and mode, how are you using the language. We're going to explain a bit more about field and specifically. Okay, field. Field refers to what is going on, including activity focus and object focus. So for example, so field specifies what's going on with reference to what. So the way we make meaning will be different based on the field, based on the activity focus, based on the object focus. For example, if the nature of social activity is to, like me, for example, to give a lecture, for example, that will be different from uh, maintaining a relationship, for example. That will be different. It depends on the nature of social activity. If the social activity, for example, if I want to maintain to have a social relationship with others, then I will not make meaning by certain language, for example. So object focus is also different. Now I'm talking about text and context connection, for example. That will be different if I talk about a game, for example, of if I talk about football. The meaning that is realized will be different. The language that I choose will be different. That's how field, including activity focus and object focus, will influence how we choose language to make meaning. So that will affect the it in turn will affect context of situation. That's about a field. Now the next one is tenor. Tenor refers to the social relationship between those taking part. these are specifiable in terms of status or power. So uh, if we are talking to a person with their social status or power which is more superior than us, then we will be more polite. But if we have the same social status or they have social power, then it will be different. Take an example that you are talking to your lecturer and you are talking to to to, to your friend, for example. If you want to, for example, borrow a book. If you want to borrow a book from your lecturer, uh, the language that you choose will be different from the language that you choose to borrow uh, a book from your friend. Perhaps you might say to your lecturer like, "Sir, could I borrow a book of functional grammar, for example?" It will be different ask, if you borrow a book to your friend. You would hardly say like, "Sir," to your friend, for example, your classmate, "Sir, could I borrow your book?" No, that's not possible to say that. That's how status and power influence how we make meaning. And that affect the degree of like or dislike or neutrality. For example, if we try to, in a discussion, for example, if you want to say um, something that we don't like, but we want to try to be more polite. We won't say directly that we don't like it. We might say like, "Yeah, it's good that you say that, but I'm afraid I have different opinion with you," for example. That's how fact influence. And then contact, the frequency and duration and intimacy of social contact. Of course, for example, the contact, how long you have a social contact with the person will influence how you choose the meaning, how you will choose language to make meaning. For example, the let's say a conversation from a husband and wife will be different from uh, what is it? A conversation between a boss and her employee, for example. That will be different because the frequency, the duration, the intimacy of social contact is also different. So let's talk about the mode. Okay, mode refers to how language is being used. It consists of two the channel of communication, whether it's spoken or written, it will be different. For example, if you let's say you text your friend via WhatsApp, for example, you might text like PSSDMN for posisi di mana. Okay, in WhatsApp the mode is written, but if you call your friend and then you wouldn't say like PSSDMN, you would say posisi di mana instead of PSSDMN. That's how different mode influence how we make meaning. In written, through WhatsApp, for example, we can shorten the words PSSDMN, but in spoken, we for example we call our friend, it's impossible to say PSSDMN. Instead, we say posisi di mana instead of saying PSSDMN. Okay, the next one is language is being used as mode of action or reflection. Okay, for example, the language that is used to mode of action or reflection, that also will be different if we try to reflect, doing reflection and want to do something, that will be different. Another example is that if for example, I am now talking about context of situation. I talk about it this way, but if I want to make it into writing, for example, if I want to write it down in a book, the way I choose language will be different. Okay, that's how mode of language or mode of discourse will influence how we make meaning in different contexts. Okay, the next one is context of culture. Context of culture determine what we can mean through. Determines what we can mean through being who we are, doing what we do, and saying what we say. For example, I am now being who I am. I'm for example, a lecturer, and I do what I do, and then I say what I say. So by knowing who we are, we can do what we do and saying what we say. For example, because I know I am a lecturer, and I must teach my students, for example, then I wouldn't say uh, I don't want to give a damn with for example, I don't want to give them teaching my student, for example, because I am a lecturer, something like that. By being who we are, doing what we do, and we can say what we say. That's the context of culture. In context of culture, actually, like the first example, asking how old are you? Okay, I know for example, being who I am an Indonesian person, for example. I do what I do, then I say what I say. I can say for example, to strangers, how old are you? When were you born? That's common to say that in Indonesian context. The culture of the context, yeah, the culture, but that will be like rather impolite or even impolite to say that in other contexts. So in context of culture, again, we have to be who we are, doing what we do, then we can say what we say. That's about text and context connection. So if you have any question, please leave comment below, and we'll have a discussion. Thank you.